Good afternoon, all of you. I welcome you all in the fifth study circle meeting. And for this meeting, first of all, our president is there. So I would like to have a opening remark from the president, Mahesh Bhai.
Thank you, Munaj Bhai, the convener of LNR committee. Chairman of LNR committee, Sujata Rangnekar Madam. Office bearer, joint, my vice president of the GSTPAM, Parth. Secretary, Jatin, joint secretary, Jatin Chheda. Rahul Thakur, immediate past president, Praveen Shinde, my colleague, in the managing committee members and those who are online. Good afternoon and warm welcome to all. In this fifth study circle meeting, we have to see that attendance conveners, we have to call some of the members henceforth so that there should be adequate attendance in front of us so that our speakers will also get encouragement. At the same time, let me appraise you of the things which has done so far. We had a good Foundation Day celebration where we had felicitated all our past presidents. Almost more than 20 past presidents have attended, and we had a half-day seminar. 2 lectures were there, and it has been taken in the place of Mulund, a very new place where not more almost after 20-25 years any lecture of GSTPAM took place. So with this, we thought that we should have such lectures across all the suburbs, and even we have visited Jalgaon, and my colleagues have visited Nagpur and Amravati. They had the outreach program, they had meeting, they had the brain trust stations over there, and would like to happily inform you that we had seen that in that conference, although it was up to 5 o'clock or 5:30, people were waited till 7 o'clock for all the queries. In Jalgaon, I think more than 43 queries across the all the audience we have taken, and not a single query we have left. And I think Partha, you must have witnessed the same, that any query, because our Rahul Bhai also was the speaker over there, and confident level and the depth of the knowledge of our speakers is such that I had seen that any question raised by the audience has been taken care of. Before we started, we were to reach the membership. 3,000 was the first target. We have achieved that. Now we are moving towards. And those who are online, I request them, those who have not yet become the member, so they are requested to become member. And regarding RRCs, we'll request then our convener to announce after some time. With this, I welcome you everybody, and I'm thankful to Dharmen Bhai for accepting our invitation and become speaker. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Now I request Chairman Sujata Madam to have some insights on about the subject.
Good afternoon, everyone. President has in his message said that, and we have realized that activities of the association are in full swing. We wish him all the best during the year. And the subject today is very interesting. It is a very practical subject. Various new concepts, novel concepts are being introduced by the GST portal and the GST authorities. And I feel that everyone should be abreast of all these changes and innovations so that we have no difficulty in the compliance of law. Therefore, it's very necessary that everyone should attend these study circle meetings, which are keeping pace with the new things emerging in the GST field. So I request Dharmen by without wasting further time to go ahead.
Thank you, President sir. Thank you, Chairman, for your remarks about the subject. Friends, today's topic for the study circle is issues in IMS, RCM, and E-Invoicing, which has been recently introduced under the GST, and IMS is yet to get introduced. So for this, it is my honor to introduce today's speaker, CA Dharmen Shah. Dharmen is having a consulting experience in services to multinational companies, corporates, governments, relating to corporate and indirect tax structuring and business transactions advisory. He is having structuring high value and overseas business transactions. He is handling search and seizure matters, enforcement for PMLA matters, DGCEI, economic offense wing on various matters. He is also attending GST appeals and tribunals for indirect tax litigation. He was also managing committee member of Sales Tax Practitioners Association of Maharashtra from 2012-13 to 1920, and he has handled the job of as a convener for various subcommittees of the STPM, which is currently our association GSTPM. He was also managing committee member of Malad Chamber of Tax Consultant from 2012-13 to 16-17. On the professional front, he has been awarded as a Best Convener Award for the 12-13. He has got the Appreciation Award for Best Paper Writer at 17th NRRC of STPM, and he has presented various papers at RRC of MCTC, STPA, NRRC, Intensive Study Circles, coaching class of our own association, GSTPM, WIRC, and at various CPE study circles. So with this brief introduction, we are sure that we would be benefited by his immense knowledge about the GST. So I request our president to facilitate today's speaker Dharmen Bhai with the memento. So with this, I request Dharmen Bhai to take over the session and enlighten us with your in-depth knowledge about the subject. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Topic of the day is issues in IMS, RCM, and e-invoicing. We shall start with IMS, proceed towards RCM and e-invoicing then later. So we will be covering IMS in depth. With respect to RCM, we shall be covering the major recent issues or the amendments which have been taken place. and e-invoicing any new updates which has been affecting us. The three-letter word IMS has assumed a very much importance. Whenever we hear IMS, we date back to 2017, July 17, when the GST was introduced, when they had GSTR 1, 2, and 3. So 1 was sales, 2 was purchase, everyone had to accept, reject, and final return would be populated and return would be filed. But then it got halted, and we had seen GSTR 1, then we have seen GSTR 3B. GSTR 3B was not a return, then we got GSTR 3B as a return. Then we got GSTR 1, we got invoice uploading facility, IFF, which we know all for the quarterly filers. So from monthly, we had monthly to quarterly. Then for quarterly, we had IFF. And post that, we had 1A, which was recently introduced. 1A is basically after you file all the invoices, any amendment in the invoices had to be taken up in 1A. And then now we are coming up with, after 2A, 2A had certain restrictions, from 20%, 10%, 5% to, I think, as good as whatever is appearing in 2B. And now we have something new coming up for claiming ITC, that is invoice management system. Now, whether IMS is only related to inward supplies? No, because when I say inward supply, it is someone's outward supply. So IMS will have again two areas. One is outward, one is inward for any taxpayer. So let us go into the invoice management system. So we will first see the objective of invoice management system. Real-time invoice dashboard. When we say real-time invoice dashboard, it means we can upload invoice during the month and not only at the due date. So whenever an invoice is uploaded on the portal in GSTR1, it gets reflected in IMS. It need not necessarily be filed. Mere uploading results in auto-populating invoices in the IMS system. The recipient can take action immediately. He need not wait till the GSTR1 is filed. So it is a real-time invoice dashboard. Facilitating taxpayers in matching of invoices vis-a-vis issued by suppliers for availing correct ITC. Once it is online and once we are on live basis, we can accept, reject, keep it pending, etc., which we'll see later. It is a live dashboard. Effective date from 1st October 24, IMS has been effective. It has been kept optional as on date, but slowly and steadily, as we know, it will be implemented. Like we had in October, we had a GSTN advisory, which said that there will be hard locking of GSTR 3B. So when we say hard locking, they had said that only for sales part, there will be hard locking. For purchase, we will be introducing in due course. So we can expect that IMS is going to be a part of every return. Unless you accept the invoice in due course in future, the return is not going to get populated, but it will take some time. Applicability, it is applicable to all the taxpayers who has to file 3B and 1. So it will include regular taxpayers, SEZ taxpayers, everyone. Certain documents are not included in IMS. Those are RCM and bill of supply. So basically they are trying to cover
Can you know the other thing is the full screen में तो अभी बोला ऊपर कर सके ना तो कहीं नोट चेक नहीं बोला बोले आना आना व्यू स्लाइड आइए अभी आए उनको
from current slide. Yes. Okay. So we'll go back. So whenever something is introduced in GST, it only has a focus on GST part. So GST part in the invoice is only those taxable supplies where GST is charged, and IMS is only concerned with those GST parts. Rest all the documents will flow directly to the 2B. It will not get populated in IMS. No action required by any taxpayer. Salient features. One of the features we have already discussed, that it will flow into IMS on the moment it is uploaded. Recipient can take action immediately, need not wait till filing of return. and whatever invoice he accepts will go in 2B. So again, now 2B, which was auto-populated, will be through a manual intervention wherein you will have to accept the invoices which you want, only then 2B will be generated, and then you will be able to claim the invoices. So all the changes in GST have been very fast. We can see in a span of 2-3 months, everything is getting implemented. So the objective is very clear to be ensuring everyone to be well compliant. The main heart or the pulse of GST, which is the input tax credit, needs to be managed very well. So they are trying to bring some discipline in the ITC claim part. So while we see pros and cons of IMS with this thing in mind, they see a transparent communication, reduced errors. Now, when we say reduced errors, in terms of we have sufficient amount of time to accept the invoices, take action on the invoices which are appearing in IMS, only then the errors will be reduced. If we have to take a case of a MNC who has maybe 10 lakh invoices a month and he has time of maybe say from 12th to 20th, if he is doing everything at the last moment. And if he is doing during the month, he might have a bit more sufficient time in case of compliances. Real-time matching. So now what I feel is the moment some invoice, we have seen situations in the companies where invoices are not received by the employees. But now people are going to 2A, 2B, look, you have received the invoice, please share me the invoice. So some sort of when everything is live, we will be seeing a more live situation in the IMS system than the books. So everything will have to be reconciled with IMS on a daily basis or a weekly basis or a monthly basis. Also, timely corrections. One of the good feature is we have seen that invoices are raised without agreement and recipient does not accept the invoice, either he partially accepts the invoice, he does not respond, he gives a part payment and the invoice lies as it is. Now once this is implemented, he might have to reject the invoice or keep it pending or get the invoice amended. Unless and until he does that, that invoice remains in the IMS. Coming to the cons, IMS mechanism sounds very, very simple. Just accept the invoice, just reject the invoice. If you keep it pending, it will be carry forwarded. But the complexity, we will be looking further. What are the timelines? How much IMS will affect us? Because we have seen wrong entries coming in 2B. We have seen invoice raised wrongly. Then a credit note is raised by the same supplier to net off the invoice. Now, there's no, earlier there was referencing of credit note against the invoice in the GST returns. Now there is no cross-referencing of credit note with GST invoices. So now how will the system understand is a question mark. Where if I reject the credit note, keep the invoice, if I keep the invoice, reject the credit note, all types of complexities will pop in. So on day to day, there is going to be a lot of to and fro with respect to invoices. Lack of time, yes, definitely. The systems are not yet developed. The GSTN portal has given a dashboard for IMS, but there are not softwares which are that equipped to handle so many invoices by accepting the invoice, rejecting the invoice. Of course, GSTN has given an option to us to download all the invoices in Excel, wherein you can filter, you can verify, you can do. But at the end of the day, you need to accept it on the portal. If you're not accepting it on the portal, IMS, there's no action in the IMS. So they will be coming out with some sort, so softwares will be coming out to handle such type of IMS. Erroneous rejections. So one of the feature in IMS is if I reject an invoice, it is out of IMS. The moment we say it is out of IMS means it is not going to populate in my 2B. So in say May month, I'm receiving an invoice. Sorry, May month, I see an invoice in the IMS system. I verify my books. I don't see any invoice from such supplier. I reject the invoice. That invoice is going out of IMS system. The moment it is out of IMS, it is not going to be populated in 2B. If it is not going to be populated in 2B, how can I claim the ITC? Will again be a question. So erroneous rejections is a big problem which will have to be handled in the IMS actions. Again, IMS has been introduced as a optional mechanism. IMS on sale side has been proposed to be, hard locking of 3B. When we say hard locking means 1A talking of 3B, whatever I have declared in the return. But if my recipient has taken some action of rejecting the invoice, so for me that invoice is rejected. So I can put it in 1A and then I can file GSTR 1, or I will have to keep my invoice as it is and go ahead. So such type of actions, when they happen, how are we going to say that mere rejection of invoice on IMS can result in no supply? Is there a mechanism in the law saying that unless you process through IMS, your return will be considered to be filed? If I don't want to do IMS, then what? Because IMS is going to be a game changer again. Let's see a basic action plan of IMS system. So first, during the month, all the taxpayers or the suppliers will keep uploading their invoices in one IFF. If there is some changes in 1A, so 1A is only open after I file one on 11th and before 20th, before filing of 3B. So 1A is only in those 9 days. Assuming as per today's trend, majority of the customers, majority of the taxpayers are uploading invoice only on the due date, nothing before that. 95% of the people are uploading on the due dates after verifying the full data. So time left with recipient to verify invoices will be very, very short. So once everything is populated in IMS, IMS will have two screens, one for the supplier, one for the recipient, to view the invoices, whatever they have uploaded and whatever they have received. Then comes actions in IMS. So action in IMS includes accept, reject, pending, no action. When we say accept, I say that the invoice has been received by me, it is accepted by me, it will be populated in 2B, I claim the ITC, works perfect. Rejection, it will be going out of invoice management system, not populated in 2B, and needs to be handled very, very carefully, because there is no mechanism as on date to bring back that invoice in the IMS to populate it in 2B. Pending, the best example of pending could be I have received an invoice in IMS on 30th. The goods are being received on 5th. So I should claim input tax credit once the goods or services are received by me. Hence, I keep it pending. Next month, I claim the ITC and I'll be able to claim it. So pending will be those invoices which will be carry forwarded to the next IMS of the month, next month's IMS. And the best part, no action taken. When we say that there are too many invoices, I don't want to take any action. Or even if I have seen, I don't know whether I'll be whether this invoice is pertaining to me or not. So I don't take any action. The moment I don't take any action, the GSTN has said it is deemed to be accepted. Now, how can no action by a taxpayer result in a acceptance by the taxpayer? This is one of the key questions which will be there in no action taken. Whether if I don't take any action on invoices, they cannot park that credit note on me, reducing my input tax credit, or at the same time consider it as an input tax credit for me. So assuming we take a case of a non-genuine taxpayer, there's a non-genuine taxpayer invoice in the IMS wherein I am not taking any action. It will be auto-populated in 2B since it is deemed to be accepted. And then, as we know, we will be receiving notices saying that these invoices are NGTP, you have claimed benefit of NGTP, and hence reverse the ITC. However, I have not claimed that ITC, it's mere no action taken. So all these actions need a very, very thoughtful action before any invoices accepted, rejected, pending, or no action is taken against an invoice. Reconcile books properly. Reconcile books properly. You can keep it pending. Assuming that it is optional. As on date, it is optional. So when something is optional and resulting in a lot of efforts, majority of the taxpayers will say, okay, let 2B get generated, I'll file the returns. I will claim whatever ITC I want to claim, irrespective of what is appearing in IMS. And my total of the input tax credit which I'm claiming is less than what is appearing in 2B. So then there is no issues. So then they have a no action taken, so that everyone takes a note of it and at least put some action from above. Otherwise, it will be auto-populated and deemed to be accepted. So this is for reducing the litigation. Then we have GSTR 1. So when we say IMS, we are saying for before uploading also I have an action in IMS during the month. Even after GSTR 1 is filed, I can do all those accept, reject, pending, no action. So assuming during the month everyone is uploading invoices, everyone has taken their actions, so timely corrections have happened. That is an ideal scenario which is envisaged. Then a person files GSTR 1. Since all the actions have been taken, draft GSTR 2B will be generated. If after the 2B is generated, again post GSTR 1 filing, taxpayer notes that there is some corrections which are required, he can go to IMS, he can put the corrective actions, regenerate the 2B will be regenerated, and then he will be able to claim ITC and file 3. So these are the basic process of a invoice management system. There are a lot of issues which we'll be discussing one by one. Some key points to note is pending records. So whatever invoices you keep as pending will remain in invoice management system till
For example, unfilable invoice after 11th or 13th of it. So it will not come in the 2B for the month of November, right? But it will appear in November of GST 2A.
correct.
Okay. So in this case, you want to say GST will be nullified going forward.
GSTR
2A.
2A will still continue to be populated as it is.
So what is the logic of 2A?
So there's the logic of 2A is they have kept 2A as it is, which is a dynamic which keeps on changing as per the compliances, and it will still be auto populated.
There is a 2A impacted people when below 5%.
Hmm.
So they will, how can they check? They have to see only GST 2A only, right?
Who?
The ITC people.
So the person who files the return, so he will be the person who files the return.
वो ITC संतोष ने फाइल कर दिया, ओके, तो टुडे में मेरे को भी समझो अभी समझो नवंबर में फाइल करेंगे वो मंथ समझो अप्रैल का डाला, तो मेरे अप्रैल के GST टुडे में दिखेगा, मेरे टुडे में तो जैसे भी वो पेंडिंग में दिखेगा वो तो जब तक वो ये एक्सेप्ट नहीं करेगा, मतलब एक्सेप्ट नहीं करेगा.
So what I understood is March month invoice getting uploaded in which month? November month. Okay. April month invoice uploaded in November. In the November return or belated return?
No, in the month of November I consider.
No. He has filed the invoice in November return, or he has filed the invoice in April return, but April return is filed in November.
April date का invoice है November में फाइल.
Okay.
New है.
Correct.
तो अभी वो डेट तो मेरा अप्रैल में है. मेरा क्वेश्चन है कि जो आईटीसी जो है सामने वाले को कोई में अप्रैल में दिखेगा.
Correct.
और टूबी में जो है मेरे को नवंबर का मेरे को दिसंबर के
Correct.
दिखेगा.
Correct.
तो लॉजिकली दरवाइज देखा तो फिर वो टूबी और टूबी का वापस.
So now if you see GSTR 9, table 8A has been replaced by 2B. For return filing, they have put up the condition saying that whatever appears in 2B, you claim. 2A is only a facilitator. 2A is only a facilitator. Your pulse lies in 2B. Now for 2B, you need to go through IMS if it is made compulsory. So in November, you will have that invoice in IMS. You accept it, it will go in 2B. If you reject it, it is out of IMS. You don't want the ITC. So whatever invoices that remains pending will continue during the year till the month of October. The moment the October, you don't take any action on those invoices, those ITCs considered to be lapsed and it will be removed out of IMS. So if you see action on pending records can be taken 30th November following end of financial year or date of filing concerned annual return. So even if you file annual return earlier, it is out of IMS. Keep that in mind. So now we will see this whole process. How does it look? At few few screenshots from the portal. So we have a taxpayer. He will see under invoice management system, inward supplies, outward supplies. So whatever people have raised invoice on him will be under inward supplies. Whatever invoices he has filed in GSTR1 will be appearing in outward supply. We will see first the easier one, outward supply. So under outward supply, first they have financial year, return period, return type. When we say return type, it is under GSTR1 and GSTR1A. So 1/IFF and 1A has been kept separate as a filter. Whenever we choose whatever return we want, we have a record which is auto-populated. The moment we go inside, we have a invoice level description wherein you can see the source is GSTR1 from where I have uploaded the return. So for example, November 24. So November 24, GSTR1 will be the source and action taken by the recipient will be populated there. Wherein recipient can say it is accepted. You will see that your invoice is accepted. If he keeps it pending, you can see he has kept it pending. If he has rejected, it will be seen rejected. And if he has not taken any action till the filing of 3B, it will be accepted. The most important. ITC, the moment you step into ITC, there's a first information which says, if you don't take any action, it will be considered as deemed accepted. So they have put in a pop-up saying that you know this condition, and if you still don't take any action, we assume that you have accepted it. Then we have all again B2B, B2BA, debit note amendment, trade note amendment, and 95 invoices. You can download the invoices in Excel, which they have given an option that is mere invoices which come in Excel, nothing more than that. When I go into B2B invoices, I'll see a dashboard somewhat similar, wherein I can see that suppliers GSTN and invoice details have been populated, and then I have option of accept, reject, pending. So after invoice number, invoice type, I have taxable value, ICS, GST, and the source, and then accept, reject, pending, and whatever status I choose, there'll be the final column will show that what action have you taken. So if I have to just go back one screen, they have given so many options. An invoice can appear in B2B, an invoice can appear in B2BA also. The same invoice can be amended by the supplier. Again, debit note amendment. So again, this is a maze run where a taxpayer before filing of return will have to find the correct invoices, will have to map the wrong invoices cancelled by credit notes, take action after reconciling this full dashboard. Only then a taxpayer will be able to take some corrective action. And at the end of the day, if there are certain invoices which cannot be seen in the books, the best option is to keep it pending, not claim ITC, but at least do some action. But at least rejection should only be in a very selective cases. Correct. So it is out of 2B. There's no option as of now. Yes, even in the FAQ, they have mentioned this, which we'll be looking into further. Yes. Yes, yes. We do have that option also. That is also cool. So that FAQ was pertaining to initial implementation only, not after the initial implementation when it is made a law and when it is made compulsory. At that point in time, we will have to see how it populates. But as on date, assuming that it is implemented, there's no option to bring back that invoice once it is out of IMS.
There is a question in the check of what about the pending action in the IMS.
So whatever invoices are kept pending will continue to populate every month unless and until you take some action, or by 30th November of next year, or annual return of the same GSTN whenever it is filed, all the invoices remaining as pending in the IMS will be going out of IMS. Okay. So now we will move towards some of the FAQs. First is what all documents will not be made available in IMS but will be part of GSTR 2B directly. So it has answered saying that non-resident taxpayer issuing any invoice will not come in IMS. It will be straight getting populated in GSTR 2B. Second, GSTR 6 ISD, same GSTN, sorry, same PAN, multiple GSTN, have one more input service distributor number for distributing the input common ITC. Those invoices raised by an ISD will be auto-populated in 2B and no action of accept, reject, pending or anything will be able to be taken. Second is IceGate documents, bill of entry filed at the customs. There's no option to accept, reject. It will be straight getting populated in 2B. First, it should also get populated in 2B because we have seen that some of the bill of entries don't come in 2B also. So then we have certain circulars which say that matching concept does not apply to imports, hence you can claim the ITC. Then we have RCM records. Now, when we say RCM records, unregistered person RCM will never be seen in IMS. But if a registered person is creating a RCM transaction, which is not ideally an RCM, maybe it's a wrong invoice raised to me, I don't have an option to accept, reject, or take any action. It will just get auto-populated in my 2B. And I need to take an action, what I'll do with that RCM. Documents where ITC is ineligible due to POS rules or section 16.4. So if place of supply, for example, I am in Maharashtra, I'm filing return, I see that place of supply, the supplier is uploaded as Gujarat. Those invoices will not be there in IMS. It will straight go in 2B as ineligible ITC. And 16.4, belated filing of the returns by the supplier. Documents where ITC is to be reversed on account of Rule 37A. Now, Rule 37A was recently introduced, which said that you can claim the ITC during the year if some of the suppliers do not file the returns. That is GSTR 3B, means he has not paid the taxes. You need to reverse it before October, that is 30th November. If you reverse it before 30th November, no interest. You will be able to reverse it. But if you reverse after that, interest will be applicable. So those identifications that where my suppliers have not filed 3B will also not come in IMS. So at the end of the day, I will have to sit and verify whether all my suppliers are compliant and whether they have filed 3B or not.
I don't want to pay, so I take an ITC 4 lakh. So filing 3B will be considered as a ITC or the payment, the ratio.
Link is only to 3B. Now, if you play mischief in the payment by claiming extra ITC, that won't be considered. But if it amounts to not, it will obviously amount to non-payment, which you will only realize maybe 2-3 years later.
There is no mechanism.
No, there's no only you can knock off what you are claiming, but there's no practice of what payment he has made. But one of the options which I foresee in the portal is after logging in, if you just search the GSTN, they show liability paid percentage. That might be of the only help wherein if he has written 100%, internet gaya. Okay. Are there any invoices, records where pending action is not allowed in IMS? So we have 4 actions: accept, reject, pending, no action taken. They are happy with you not taking any action because it is accept. So we are left with accept, pending, and rejected. Now they have said pending will not be allowed in certain cases. Okay. First case is original credit note. So if a credit note is uploaded, you cannot keep it pending. The liability has to be reduced either by the supplier or the recipient has to reverse the ITC. Either of one will have to do that action. So you cannot keep it pending. So the only 2 options left is accept and reject. So I can either accept a credit note or I can reject a credit. If I don't take any action, it is accepted. Second is amendment, upward amendment in the credit note. So when I say upward amendment, my credit note was 1 lakh plus GST 18%, say 18,000. The credit note is revised, say 2 lakhs plus 36,000. So again, such upward amended credit notes also cannot be kept pending. Then comes downward amendment of credit. Again, 1 lakh 80,000. If I'm reducing my credit note value, I cannot keep it pending. And last is downward amendment of invoices. So if there is an invoice which is already uploaded, there's some amendment in the invoice, again, I'll have to either accept or reject it. So end of the day, wherever there's a change in a document, there's an amendment in a document, or there's a credit note through which the invoice value is being reduced, needs to be either accepted or rejected. So the moment we see IMS, we had in mind that I have 4 options, but the moment I see amendments or I see credit notes, I only have 2 options, accept or reject. Then comes, can I take actions multiple times on a document? So GSTN says, yes, you can take action multiple times on a document. Maybe you can accept it on 10th, reject it on 15th. After filing of return, before filing of 3B, again, you may put it into pending. You can do n number of actions, but the due date is before filing of 3B. After filing of 3B, whatever action you have taken is freeze because it gets auto-populated in 2B. And the last action which you have done will be considered as final. What happens to original tax invoice, debit note, if the same record is amended by the supplier? So assuming I have an original tax invoice which is uploaded in GSTR1, I accept the invoices, and then the supplier amends the invoice upward, downward, or maybe a credit note. So it says that first scenario is the original invoice and the amendment can be in 2 different to be return periods. So maybe April I upload an invoice, May the invoice gets amended. So they say that if the recipient takes the action on amended tax invoice or debit note first, then system will not allow to save the action in IMS. The basic condition is original invoice, first you need to take an action, then come to amended invoice, then take an action. You cannot straight away go to amended and do some actions. Then is the second case where they say that if original invoice, amended invoice, both belong to the same to be period. Again, the same rule, you need to take action on the original invoice, then come to amended invoice. So maybe you can reject the original invoice, accept the amended invoice. But you will have to do actions on both the invoice. You cannot do a unilateral action on only one part of the invoice. What happens to the original credit if the same is amended by the supplier? If original and amended credit note both are available in IMS, whether it belongs to 2 different period or same period, action taken on amended credit note will prevail. But at the end of the day, you need to take an action on the original. You reject it and then you accept the amended one. What if I have taken an action on a document in saved status, but the same is edited, changed by the supplier before filing of GSTR1? So this is a classic case wherein they have said that during the month, an invoice is uploaded. At the time of filing return, that invoice is changed. Now what to do? So the IMS system works in a manner which says that the moment the invoice is changed, whatever action you have taken will be reset. So assuming 10th of the month, I have accepted an invoice whenever it was appearing in IMS. At the 11th of the month, that invoice is deleted or maybe changed. Then on after 11th, from 12th, I again have an option whether to accept it, reject it, or keep it pending. So I'll have to keep track of invoices the moment when it is uploaded. So the corrective or the conclusion would be majority of the taxpayers will say after the GSTR1 is filed, the invoices are freezed, then I'll take an action. And the resultant effect would be the moment they start rejecting the invoice after GSTR1 is filed, 1A will be filed multiple times. Sorry, in 1A will be filed once, but the entries will increase in 1A where you will start amending invoices. Now keep in mind, invoice can be only amended once. It cannot be amended twice. So if an invoice is rejected, you re-upload the invoice with some changes. means you do an amendment in the invoice and then again he rejects. Now I cannot amend an invoice in the GSTR1. The corrective action would be a credit note. Now this invoice and credit note will no way be linked. That linking has to be done manually by the supplier and the recipient because system would not understand this invoice and credit note. So end of the day, keep like GST is a reconciliation bouquet. This will also be a reconciliation bouquet and a measure. What happens if recipient rejects a record? If recipient rejects the record before filing of GSTR1 by the supplier, then invoice can be edited and supplier can then file GSTR1. And the edited record will be available again in IMS. So keep in mind, if before filing something is edited, action of rejection is reset. After the GSTR1 is filed, again take an action, whether you accept that invoice or not. So you can amend the invoice multiple times before GSTR1 is filed. So mere uploading of invoice in GSTR1. After GSTR1 is filed, amendment is only allowed once. If coming to the second part, if recipient rejects after filing of GSTR1 by the supplier, so now GSTR1 is filed and the recipient is rejecting the same, then the supplier needs to amend it in GSTR1A or subsequent GSTR1 with the revised details. And once he amends, again amended record will be available in IMS for the recipient. So don't know how many times the invoice is going to go round and round, but this is going to be a game where all supplier recipient disputes are going to come out. Next, can a supplier amend a forward charge mechanism invoice to RCM invoice, and what will be the impact on ITC? So assuming a goods transporter agency, a transporter has taken a GST registration. After taking GST registration, he has uploaded invoices. By mistake, instead of putting it as an RCM, he has put it as a forward charge mechanism. Now GTA has the option both of forward charge and reverse charge. So as a recipient, I assume that he has paid under forward charge. I claim the ITC. For claiming the ITC, I will say accept. Populated in 2B, I filed the return. Next month, the supplier realizes his mistake. He converts the forward charge invoice into reverse charge. The moment he converts the invoice into reverse charge, effect on 3B will be ITC will be reversed auto. So this is the effect of IMS. So the conclusion is, even after bringing in IMS, once the recipient has accepted some invoice, still the option is open to supplier to re-amend the invoice, change the values, convert it from forward charge to reverse charge, change the place of supply. So basically change the full invoice. And recipient, for example, again same, even if the supplier changes multiple times, recipient still has an option to reject it, even if he has multiple times amended the invoice. Coming to the next question, can the place of supply be changed by the supplier in GSTR1 and what will be the impact on ITC? So going back, Maharashtra invoice, place of supply uploaded as Maharashtra and the invoice is uploaded. The recipient claims the ITC by clicking accept. So we assume whenever I say claim ITC, it is accept in IMS. And next month, he changes the place of supply from Maharashtra to Gujarat. Then it will be impact of reversing the ITC because IMS is considered to be identification of invoices for which you have claimed input tax credit in 3. The moment you change anything there, it will be having an effect in 3B by telling you that this ITC has to be reversed. It will be auto-populated in 4B1. You have claimed in 4A5, the reversal will happen in 4B1, which is a permanent reversal. What will happen if the recipient rejects the original credit note or upward amended credit note? So supplier has uploaded a credit note against his supply. Recipient rejects the credit note. Allowed. What is the impact? The moment he rejects a credit note, the supplier's 3B of that month would be filed as it is. But the next month when he files 3B, such liability will be auto added in 3B, showing that your customer has rejected the credit note. And hence, section 34 compliance would be ensured when a credit note is issued. The effect is if supplier can reduce the liability only if the ITC is reversed by the recipient. Next FAQ is liability of supplier will be increased in GSTR 3B for subsequent tax period for invoices records which have been rejected by the recipient in the IMS for following transactions. So one of the case we have seen, that is the credit note. If credit note is rejected, it will be auto-populated in 3B. Other changes are upward amendment of credit note, downward amendment of credit note, downward amendment of invoices. So any changes which we have seen is being rejected by the recipient, impact is auto-populated in 3B of the supplier of the subsequent. So we say that supplier can amend multiple times invoices, but after issuing invoice, any amendment which is done will only impact him if recipient does not accept such document. If recipient rejects the document, liability will always be populated on the supplier. When should an invoice debit note be rejected? So our question is, how will rejections be handled? So they have said, when should an invoice or debit note be rejected? Rejection of an invoice or a debit note should be done very carefully, as rejection will result in no ITC for the recipient. So in the FAQ, they have made it clear that reject only if you don't want ITC. Moment you have rejected, forget the ITC. A record, further they have said, a record may be rejected if it does not pertain to the recipient or the detail of the record is erroneous to such an extent that credit note, debit note cannot handle a situation. So assuming a supplier has raised an invoice of 7 lakhs, ideal invoice should have been of 5 lakhs. So only reject that 7 lakhs invoice if the invoice cannot be corrected by a credit. So the instructions are so specific. If by mistake someone rejects it, there's no option that full liability will be added to the supplier's 3B of subsequent. Next question is, how can recipient accept a genuine credit note issued by supplier in IMS, as it will result in further reduction of the recipient's ITC? However, recipient had reversed the ITC corresponding to that invoice because of 17.5, 38, 42, 43, etc., or not availed the ITC at all because of POS or 16.4. So they say that in such cases, recipient should accept such credit note. After accepting recipient, since recipient had already reversed such input tax credit in 3B, he need not reverse such ITC. So most important outcome of this is, if document pertains to you, ensure you accept it. If that document cannot be corrected to such an extent that invoice cannot be amended by debit note, credit note, or invoice itself cannot be amended, then reject it. But the moment document pertains to you, accept it. The next implication should be handled in 3B, not in the IMS system. What action shall be available on upward amended invoice, debit notes, where the upward amended invoice debit note is saved by supplier and the same is not filed? So again, back to action. Recipient will be able to take action when the supplier files such record. So if an invoice is already there, it has been amended upward, so more ITC is available, he will be only able to take action on such invoices after he files GSTR1. So that supplier confirms that he is passing on more ITC to the recipient. So while we see that IMS was fairly simple in our minds, accept, reject, pending, it has its own flavors, which says that amendment, if you want to take any impact, first take action on the original, then take action on the amended. Such action only possible if it's an upward amendment. Action is only possible once the supplier files the return. Same way, if there is a reduction, if the recipient rejects it, it will be auto added in supplier's 3B liability of the subsequent month. So lot of auto additions are happening based on the actions of supplier and recipient. What to do in case wrong invoice is corrected by issuance of credit note by the supplier instead of amending the same, and such credit note has been rejected by the recipient. So, like we said, invoice uploaded. So, assuming a multinational always has a SAP, SAP does not have a provision of cancelling an invoices. The moment you click on cancel invoice, they pass a credit note to that effect so that the invoice is not amended in the system. First answer to that is, in the absence of linkage of credit note with the corresponding invoices, system cannot understand whether original invoice for this credit note was accepted or rejected. So this reliance is again based on the recipient. He has to take corrective action. So first he has to download B2B, B2BA, CN amendment, DN, DNA. Then he has to map this invoice 100 rupees, this credit note 100 rupees. Both are same, which I don't know how is it possible. Maybe credit note could be pertaining to some other invoices. After he matches that, then he has to reject both invoice credit note, and then for balance he has to take an action which are appearing in books after reconciling the same. Next para of the same says, therefore, if the invoice is not correct, then it is advisable to rectify the mistake through amendment of invoices instead of issuing a credit. So if invoice is wrongly uploaded by the supplier, he has to amend the invoice, not pass a credit note to that impact. So even if in the books, assuming I am using a SAP, in the books I have passed a credit note against an invoice, the system will have to be equipped to ensure that this is cancellation of invoice. Hence, I need to amend in the returns and not pass a credit note in the returns. Next, can the credit note be kept as pending in IMS? So again, we have same, credit note cannot be kept as pending in IMS since section 34 compliance has to be ensured. Last, initial phase errors, which says that during this initial phase of invoice management system, there could be errors wherein you could have erroneously rejected some invoices. Later, you might have received those invoices. What to do in such cases? Since IMS is still optional, they have said that you can take corrective actions in GSTR 3B and file your 3B. You need not take IMS into consideration, even if you have made a mistake. But as we know, if you have made a mistake, you need a screenshot, some proof that such invoices were appearing in 2B. So then the corrective action is 2A, which is still getting auto-populated, where I can see that invoice is still lying in 2A. Erroneously, I had rejected, and hence it did not come in 2B, and I need to consider it. Now, whether this will be accepted or not will be seen at a later date when notices start flowing. These were the advisory under invoice management system or some issues which we could face in the IMS. Way forward, they have also shown a way forward, hard locking of auto-populated liability in GSTR 3B. Now, first 2 points are fairly simple. It says that supplier, whatever he files in GSTR 1, amends it in GSTR 1A, will be auto-populated as a liability in GSTR 3B. This will start from January 25. Should start from January 25. There's still no confirmation. So this is a new year gift. Then we have a fourth point, which is very, very important. I'll just read. However, locking of auto-populated ITC in GSTR 3B after the rollout of IMS will be implemented from a later date. For the same, a separate advisory would be issued to address all the issues in IMS raised by the trade. So the plan is very clear. IMS is going to come soon. And today we need to get a hands-on in the IMS system, since we have an advisory which says initial errors will be ignored and at least start accustoming to IMS. Could be that IMS will get implemented in a very near date. IMS concerns legal validity and functionality. So today IMS is there, but there's no legal backup to it, whether I need to accept, reject. These are all facilities which are provided on the portal. Like we had one more facility on the portal, I assume communication between taxpayers, where now if you see IMS today, IMS says that whatever invoice the recipient receives, you can take action on it. Correct. But if an invoice is missed by the supplier, then what? Where should I communicate it to the supplier? There is no option to it in the IMS. So that option was available under communication between taxpayers, where he could say that supplier, you have not uploaded following invoices which you have issued to me. Kindly upload it in the GSTR1. So it is like a GSTN in-house mailbox, which is there in the website, wherein you can communicate to your supplier. But that is already rolled out, because that is no more, I assume, that is not available for any action in the portal unless it is available. Deemed action, no action equals deemed acceptance. Under no stretch of mind, if I am not taking any action, it can be deemed to be accepted. And this will see a lot of litigations that if I have not taken action, you cannot deem it to be accepted. Recipient's compliance, if a supplier modifies a saved invoice during GSTR1 filing, recipient's action of the saved action could be nullified. So basically, if supplier changes invoice, recipient is left with no option to again take action on those same invoices. There's no locking of invoice, as we had seen in the 2017 when system was getting implemented, that once recipient accepts an invoice, supplier cannot change that invoice. Here the flexibilities, supplier can also change, recipient has to take action again. Mistakenly rejected invoice, this is already an issue, that if it is a mistake, it goes out of IMS. Supplier liability activated by recipient action. So when we say supplier liabilities, basically if a credit note is uploaded and it is rejected by the recipient, it gets auto-populated in the supplier's GSTR3B. So such type of auto addition is going to be seen in coming days. Since GST, we have seen a lot of reconciliations in GST turnover versus GST turnover. So if I reject a credit note, it will be auto-added in the supplier's turnover. That credit note will not be considered. If it is not getting considered, means my turnover under GST will be higher. Whereas that credit note is still there as a part of my books. So my turnover under GST and turnover under books, turnover in books or income tax or audit would be different. And that will require a invoice level reconciliation or a credit note level reconciliation, what is getting accepted, rejected, etc. IMS reconciliation will have to be done multiple times. So basically, it's very, very simple. Even during the month, if someone has a supplier has uploaded and recipient takes any action, it will be reset if supplier changes it. So multiple times reconciliation will be involved. Again, if supplier amends an invoice, makes a correct invoice, recipient will accept it. Earlier he had rejected it. So multiple reconciliation round the year will go on and on. Even before 2B is generated, after 2B is generated, since 2B can be reset multiple times. E-way bill and IRN reconciliation will never match. So we all know that the moment we have turnover above 5 crores, e-invoice is applicable as on date, I think from 1st August 2023. If IRN is generated, that invoice cannot be amended. Still recipient rejects an invoice. Then we have a FAQ advisory which says that if such invoices can be corrected, then corrective action should be taken by amending the invoice. The moment I amend an invoice, I assume GSTR1, the e-invoice number goes appearing. Recipient takes action of accepting the invoice. He claims the ITC. Then comes second action, which says that if e-invoice is not generated, it's not a valid invoice. If it is not a valid invoice, again, you cannot claim an input credit. So end of the day, supplier and recipient needs to ensure that if a e-invoice system is applicable to his or her business, they need to ensure that all documents, you may simply nullify that invoices and not try to correct the invoice by amending the values. Then we have e-way bill reconciliation. So e-way bill are generated for multiple purposes, And since there is accept reject going on, so for example, a credit note is issued for goods return and the credit note is rejected by the recipient. Your e-bill values and your 3B or 1 values will never match. So now we will see a system where supplier has uploaded something in GSTR1. However, recipient takes action of rejecting that credit note. I don't know whether that credit note will be pulled out of GSTR1. No, credit note will still remain in GSTR1. Only the liability will get added in GSTR3B. So again, my GSTR1 will have the credit note. Liability will not be paid by the recipient. Liability will be paid by me in my GSTR3B since recipient has rejected it. So tomorrow when we receive notices wherein credit notes have been questioned, whether the liability is reversed by the recipient, we will have one more reconciliation which says, these are the credit notes which are rejected by the recipient. I have only paid the taxes in 3B. These are the credit notes which have been accepted by the recipient and those have been reversed by the recipient. Many new types of reconciliation flowing in, and books 1 3B matching is also going to be a task because my turnover under 3B will have auto addition of liability due to recipient's action. One will be uploaded from my books and books will have certain more things which are not under GST. So all the turnover is going to be mismatched. What I understand is while 3CD tax audit is getting uploaded, turnover under 3B is reported. Now the moment turnover under 3B is reported, 3B has auto-populated actions. So my turnover will be higher compared to what I have reported in 3CD. So we have again a new type of notices which can come in with respect to such reconciliations also. So end of the day, we need to have a reconciliation right from books 1, 1A, 3B, sorry, 1A, IMS, 3B. So we'll have some sort of very complicated reconciliation. I assume IMS we had this much. We will start with issues under RCM. Yeah.
We are going to have the whatever we have not taken an action, it will be accepted. Okay. So now since ITC will be followed from the IMS in our training, and there may be a chances which we would like to have the invoice should be reported or we want to take a credit, but due to not taken an action, it has been accepted. So if we're going to file my GST, it will file in my electronic credit ledger. So again, we have to take care.
No, before filing 3B, you need to go back to IMS, take action on the invoice, again generate 2B, again come to 3B, see what effect you wanted is correctly shown in the 3B, and then file the 3B. If you have already filed the 3B, means you have, it is assumed that you have accepted it. Yes, multiple times 2B will be generated before filing 3B. And that to keep in mind, it is open. There's no date for accepting, rejecting. So assuming 13th, you have done a reconciliation. 14th, you will see my 10 recipients have taken an action. So again, I'll be reconciling. Done reconciliation, I'm ready to file. 15th, again, more 4 have taken an action. Again, reconciliation. 15th, 16th, 17th. So it will be a never-ending task wherein IMS is going to play a major role and don't know how it is going to work factually. So it's going to be a maze run where a taxpayer enters IMS. If he finds the correct way, he will be able to exit. Yeah. Yeah.
Is not eligible for settlement. So only if I accept, go and be ineligible for
No, first it will go into claim, then it will be populated in 4B1 if the system understands it. If the system does not understand, you will have an option to enter it, increase the reversal amount.
Okay, so that care also I have to take.
Yes, yes. Because they have said it very clear that we don't understand anything in the IMS.
Is a recipient of the, is eligible, it will come to, let's say, for example, let's say insurance also. Business insurance, let's say, for example, employee insurance is eligible, but it is coming. Okay. So that the system is not defined of 75 उसके बाद में डिसअलाउ करना तो प्रीव्यू में है ना?
Yes, they have said it. They have said it in the FAQ. You have to accept the invoice first. All the ineligible ITC invoice you need to accept and reverse it in 4B1.
In case we don't go and asking the basis, so what will be the process?
There was one circular, I don't recollect the number, which said that ineligible ITC has to be correctly shown in the returns because it is affecting the distribution of revenue amongst the states. So you will see a next notice that the moment revenue decreases, you will have a notice for that IMS you are not accepting correctly.
So what is the pattern? Say, for example, there are insurance things, like a building insurance, I can take. Employee insurance cannot take. So how does the
System does not.
You can
You can claim the ITC, but be ready for the notices.
Credit card expenses which we have purchased something by credit card. It is reflecting in IRS, but it is not there in my books because I have directly expenses. In such case, if I reject it, then I'm saying that it is not my purchase.
Yes.
So I need to accept and then reverse it.
Yes. Yes, but you need to know that it is your invoice.
So if I don't know and I directly reject it,
then it's gone out of IMS. You are not claiming ITC. But then if it's a credit note, so say for example, there's an invoice and a credit note, and you are rejecting it, it will have effect in supplier will come to you. It will have impact, ideally.
that this expense because we have rejected your income tax, you are not allowed.
That is,
You know,
that is a possibility again. That is a new side of IMS which can come into picture. Anyways, what I understand is in today's income tax scrutiny, they are more focused on GST rather than income tax. They have forgot that they have issued an income tax notice. Please give me a purchase reconciliation, sales reconciliation, and etc. etc. A lot more things. But you have rejected it, no? Then you'll have to say why you have rejected it. But you'll have to, so end of the day, you need to give explanations for everything. That is correct. You need to have an invoice. You need to do a payment. You need to book it as an expense. So then one level up. No, it's an impossible task. Correct word is impossible task. So that is why I said it's a maze run. Go in. If you find a way out, go out. Or else keep going in and in. And I'm very sure how much time as a professional you'll be able to devote for such type of reconciliations is going to be a task. Okay, quickly moving to RCM now. RCM, I have only touched upon a few recent amendments and the circulars which have come up with respect to issues under RCM. Earlier, there was a dispute whether RCM can be claimed after the time limit under 16.4 or 16.5 is over. They have fortunately brought out a circular which said that time limit is the day when recipient raises an invoice. If recipient raises an invoice late, interest will have to be paid for the delayed period. Rest, ITC is still eligible. It's a good thing, plus point for us. The dispute goes off. Then second day, they brought an amendment saying that now all the cooling period over under RCM. Now I bring in a time limit. You need to raise invoice within 30 days. The moment you receive a service by introducing the rule 47A. So this is a time limit for issuing tax invoice in case recipient has to raise an invoice. The moment this rule has been brought in, the effect is you need to raise an invoice in the year in which the service is received and timeline for November of the subsequent year. And these changes have been implemented from 1st November 24. Second RCM impact, which was there was service by way of residential dwelling to a registered person, and service by way of renting of any property other than the residential dwelling. So the questions were, any property means machinery, any property means not only immovable property, which they have clarified by issuing a corrigendum saying that any immovable property. So now we have only an immovable property which will get covered under this entry, and RCM will be applicable. So this is good things which they have brought in to simplify. So Northern Operating Systems, one more circular was issued, which is a good circular, which I have quoted. So Northern Operating System was basically a company in India who used to have employees on deputation from the group companies. Service tax case, wherein Supreme Court decided that this is an import of service based on the parameters that who is the original employer. Employer is a person who employs the employee. Employee is on the payroll of the overseas entity. Uh, he comes on deputation to India. He still gets benefits from the overseas group companies. He is retained as an employee there for social security benefits. In India, Indian company does not pay to the employee. Indian company is reimbursing to the group companies, and employee who is based in India is working on the actions of Indian company. So real owner will be India. Whether this transaction should be a employer-employee relationship between Indian company and employee, or whether they should be treated as import of services. So there are multiple factors which were considered by Supreme Court. So conclusion was they said that RCM will be applicable. So CBIC brought out a circular under GST saying that do not follow the judgment blindly. Consider the parameters which are there in the agreement. Do not blindly apply the judgment and create a liability. So certain good things on the RCM part. Foreign bank charges, one more DGGI, I suppose, order is going round and round, which has said that exporter, when he exports certain goods, he gets certain remittances from overseas customers. So assuming I raise a invoice of 1 CR, I get say some to 10, 20,000 less, and money is credited to the Indian exporter's account. So DGGI said that who is interacting with the foreign bank, whether foreign bank is providing a service to Indian exporter or to the Indian bank is a question. So foreign exporter comes to know about the charges only through Indian bank. Indian bank is the person who is interacting with the foreign bank, and hence Indian bank is the recipient, and hence RCM should be fixed on Indian bank as a recipient and not on the exporter. Vis-a-vis the contra degree, since it is again this is also a service tax case, I suppose, and vis-a-vis if you go into GST, recipient is a person who pays for the services. Ultimately, the money is deducted from the Indian exporters' funds. So if I go by that notion, recipient is the Indian exporter, and RCM will be applicable to Indian exporter. However, we have some good things for RCM on foreign bank charges, because this has been one of the hot topic for liability creation in the GST audits which are being carried out. Foreign fluctuation is not liable to GST. Forex fluctuation is out of GST. E-invoicing, quickly covering one or two things. The turnover limits 5 crore 1st August 23. Now, e-invoicing, one condition is that e-invoicing will be applicable from the next year into till date, and it's not only last year. And the day any year you cross the turnover, e-invoicing will be applicable from the next year, 1st April. Time advisory which has come up recently is from 1st April 25, taxpayer with an average annual turnover of 10 crores and above would not be allowed to report e-invoices older than 30 days. So they are getting strict on their actions. They are saying you need to upload e-invoice options needs to be phased out slowly and steadily. All invoices needs to be generated in a reasonable span, maybe not daily, but there's some time limit which has already come up. This is a circular which was issued which said that, say for example, of E-Invoicing rule under 48(4). So whether qua insurance activity only it is out of e-invoice. Suppose the insurance company is also doing a renting activity of giving invoices on rent or selling maybe vehicle parts, etc. Whether e-invoice is required by the insurance company or not. So the exemption does not apply qua activity, it is qua entity. So full entity has not to generate e-invoice. This circular has clarified a very simple thing. They have said that when I am a service provider, I am providing services to government. So when government, it includes government agents for the purpose of TDS deduction, correct? Whether I need to generate e-invoice or not. So they have clarified saying that they are registered under GST as a TDS deductor. As a TDS deductor, once they are registered, they are said to be taxpayers and supplier has to generate e-invoices. So quite the most biggest issue here is invoice not getting accepted at the government companies or government aside. So when they don't accept the invoices, they keep it pending. E-invoice is already generated. The moment e-invoice is generated, supplier is liable to pay the GST. If he does not pay the GST, there will be again one type of reconciliation coming in, wherein why e-invoices have been generated but not populated in GSTR1. This question comes from the habit of a supplier of service who is on a regular basis only booking income to the extent money is received from the government companies. In majority of the cases, they have been following this since TDS is deducted when money is paid and invoice is raised when the services are provided. So this type of reconciliation is also going to come. And more so because if you see a normal TDS return, GSTR 7, I suppose, there is no linkage to supplier invoices. What payment is done and what TDS is deducted. So you will have a round of reconciliation again. One of the last judgment which I could see on e-invoicing was whether e-invoicing is also mandatory while transporting the document. Suppose e-invoice is not generated, a normal invoice is generated along with a e-way bill, and the goods are examined while movement, and the officer says, look, you have not generated an invoice since e-invoice is not generated. Whether confiscation can happen and penalty will be applicable. There's a judgment to that effect which said that defects in e-invoice or e-invoice itself not generated will not lead to penalty under section 129 cannot be invoked. So I assume that was a summary of the issues which I could fetch on these three points, IMS, RCM and e-invoicing. Any queries? Welcome.
There is a query that is there any legal backup for the issuance of e-invoice?
Legal backup.
For which is what you mentioned about the 10 crore limit that within the period of 30 days it has to be.
No, there's legal. There's only advisory till date, and once it is implemented, you will have the.
There is where is the checkbox?
Yes.
One more is that. Say for example, they are saying that in the IMS there are 500 entries, and it is compulsory. Is it compulsory or it is to be accepted, rejected, or to be kept as pending before filing of the CB?
So if you don't accept, it is considered. If you don't take any action, it is deemed to be accepted.
We can directly take an amount of ITC in GSTR 3B under 4 and then showing it all eligible and is ineligible and everything.
So assuming 500 invoices are there, when we say I'll accept all the invoices, I'll reject the invoices that do not pertain to me, and I'll retain the right to reclaim it in future. Yeah, everything can be evaluated once IMS is there in place.
There is a taxpayer who is applicable e-invoice. Okay, so he is generating e-invoice, but due to some limit or something, he is unable to be. So he thought, he will do manual invoicing. As per the law, when we do any manual, so ITC will not be eligible. So what is the right way, because ultimately system nahi chal raha hai, something, the tally or something. So adding manual will face a consequence.
So if I am traveling in a train without a ticket because the ticket window was closed, at that particular point, but I did not know I also have an app where I can buy a ticket. So will that amount to saying that I have not complied with the law? So now coming to your question, you are saying my tally doesn't work. I cannot generate a e-invoice. There is a Excel utility which is already there. There is a in portal which you can manually enter everything and generate an e-invoice. So you have to generate an e-invoice. Now e-invoice also has a time limit today. So today there is no time limit. Maybe from 1st April you will have a time limit. So you need to generate an e-invoice because the rule is very clear. E-invoice has to be generated. Yes. Yes. But that has not come up still in the eyes of the department.
Fully into export of service and for some people not e-invoices, but managing invoices for these. But there is no question of they set all set. Who will attract
So general penalty will be applicable 25, 25, 50,000. Now if I count it as a one default of not generating invoice 50,000, if I look at multiple invoices register and I say that you have multiple times not followed the rules, then multiple times 50,000. So it will more depend on how the officer is. But what I feel is 50,000 will be multiple times. But one offense continued for a reasonable period and not followed multiple times. Evaded. But there is no evasion in export of service.
E-invoice is not generated. So it is 100% of equivalent to tax.
No. You are referring to, I think, section 122, where the words are 100% of the tax evaded or 10,000, whichever is higher.
E-invoice is not generated.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for a patient ear.
Thank you, Dharmen Bhai, for a wonderful and insightful session on the emerging IMS and e-invoicing. For this, now I request our committee member Sunil Joshi ji to give a vote of thanks to the well-deserved speaker CA Dharmen Shah. Sunil Bhai, please.
Good afternoon. Before going to the present outcomes, as a convener of the committee, I would like to request all the members that the last day for the early bird enrollment is 15th of December. So I request all to join for the RRC at Goa between 6th and 9th March and register at earliest. Thank you. Now on the pleasant task of vote of thanks. I think in the other GST we always say in a funny manner there are two laws. One is passed by the parliament, another is administered by the portal. So I think the parliament law is more now getting settled, but totally unsettled and it is evolving. And we need a expert like C. Dharmen Shah to update us about the portal and about changes which are happening on the portal. I think today C. Dharmen Shah has a good insight about the now new fund of ICM and the RCM involvement and the e-invoicing, which I thank of the LNR committee and the GSTPAM to the speaker, and I request participants to carry to the vote loud applause.
There is one announcement where the department is having a program for the NST scheme, which is scheduled tomorrow at 10:30 to 1, where you can also raise your question answer, and it would be an interactive session as it has been informed by the government officials. Even JC will also be nodals, around 6 nodals. So you can advantage of this. It is a physical session which has been scheduled at ICAI Tower BKC Bandra East. So this is all about the tomorrow's session and about the RRC. So we are requesting all of you to all of you to join. And I, being a convener of Gujarati Coaching Class Committee, I would also like to make the announcement regarding the, and I am appealing all the members or to enroll their staff, or they themselves can also enroll for the GST coaching class, which is happening in Gujarati. So we are requesting all of you to take the advantage to understand the GST in Gujarati. So, and all the speakers are learned speakers and having a good knowledge. Their knowledge is no doubt about their knowledge, but it would be in Gujarati, so it would be easier for the participants to understand the complex law in their own language. So I am requesting all the members to take the advantage of this. And course is going to start soon. So flyer has already been circulated. And for further information, you may get the info from our website as well as with our office staff as well. So thank you. Thank you so much. And I request all of you to please stand up for the national anthem. Right. विनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना उच्चल जलधि तव शुभ नामे शुभ शिष्य के तव जय मंगलदायक जय हे भारत विधाता जय हे जय हे जय जय हे भारत माता की